Well, hi there. 3 years ago, I asked you a very important question. What is your favorite book of all time? 3 years ago, I made a video where I asked 1,000 people what their favorite book of all time was. I got a lot more than 1,000 answers, replies, votes. So, welcome to, I asked 2,000 people what their favorite book of all time was. What is the best book you've ever read? What is your be-all, end-all? This year as well, I decided to take the top 30 books instead of the top 20, so we might be here for a little bit longer. I think this is a pretty solid list, and I'm very pleased with it for one reason in particular, which we'll get there. I collected 2,002 of your votes, and those 2,002 votes translated into around 630 different books on this list. There were, of course, a number of books that only got one vote. For example, stuff like The Joy Luck Club by Amy Tan. Big Swiss only got one vote. The Time Machine only got one vote. Your favorite author, if we are going purely by the number of works of his that you listed down, is none other than Haruki Murakami. You guys listed 9 of Murakami's works as your favorite books of all time, and he came in with a total of 37 votes with all of his works combined. However, if we're going for your favorite author by number of votes alone, which is probably the better way to do it, your favorite author is Fyodor Dostoevsky, and he has a total of 50 votes, 6 of his works listed. Next to most popular authors, your favorite authors by number of works listed is Ishiguro and Jane Austen. Without further ado, let's get into the 30 best pieces of literature ever written, according to you. This is interesting because 3 years ago, our number 30 in 2024 actually ranked in the 13th spot. I guess a lot of you have moved on from this book. Maybe you've outgrown it, maybe you're on to bigger and better things, but 15 people still voted for 1984 by George Orwell. I thought this was going to be so much higher. I honestly don't know what it's doing sitting at the 30th spot. This is a 5-star for me. I love this book so much. I actually read this book because you guys boosted it to number 13 on the list from 3 years ago. I hadn't read it previously, and now that I'm making this list video again, I can say that I've read it. I love it. I've discovered that I love texts that deal with memory and the past and history and the shaping of reality, and 1984 is just wonderful. Would I say that it's a perfect book? Does it deserve a perfect full 5 stars? In my opinion, no. I think it does kind of fall off. I still gave this 5 stars. I love this, and so did 15 of you. So this lands in the 30th spot of your best books of all time. I thought, again, I don't know if I did this last time, but I'm just going to read you the opening sentence of each because it's something I love doing. I love hearing the first sentence of books. So 1984's first sentence is, "It was a bright, cool day in April, and the clocks were striking 13. Next up in 29th place, this actually has the same amount of votes as 1984. The first sentence of your 29th pick is, "In a hole in the ground, there lived a hobbit." Number 29 is The Hobbit by Tolkien. I love The Hobbit. I reread it since the last time we did this video together. It didn't appear on the list from 3 years ago, but it's here now. Dragons, mountains, coziness. Out of this list of 30 books, there are 8 of them, of which I have not yet read. Number 28 is one that I haven't read as of yet, but I do own, and that is Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. Actually, is this one of the books that would have come out in between our videos? Oh, very interesting. Okay, so this book came out in 2020. I uploaded your first favorite books video in 2021. Interesting, very interesting. Okay, so this one has 16 votes for your best book of all time. I am dying to read this. I really want to read this. All I know is that it's very architecturally interesting, because this is about, I think, a faun, right, who lives in the house. Messages begin to appear, scratched out in chalk on the pavements. There is someone new in the house. The sentence of this one is, "When the moon rose in the 3rd northern hall, I went to the 9th vestibule to witness the joining of 3 tides." Okay, see, I'm already confused. This looks extremely unique, is what I want to say. So that is number 28. Number 27, also coming in with 16 votes, is interesting because this book 3 years ago ranked very, 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 very high. This book took 3rd place in 2021. In 2024, it is only taking the 27th spot, and that is Harry Potter. I'm shocked. I am so shocked that this is here. I thought this was going to do great things on the polls again. For me, this book would rank higher. The series in general really would rank higher than 27th because this is and still is, was and still is such a huge part of my life. Most people just voted for the series in general, so I put it on here, but the individual books in the series that got the most votes were Philosopher's Stone and Prisoner of Azkaban, and Half-Blood Prince. The best. Love this to bits and pieces. First sentence is, Mr. and Mrs. Dursley of number 4 Privet Drive were proud to say that they were perfectly normal. Thank you very much. Number 26 is a book that did not see the light of day. This book for me has become one of my favorite books of all time. It's become a 5-star. I think you know what it is. It is War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy. This also got 17. Oh yeah, this got 17 votes. I had such the time of my life making the Tolstoy diaries, or the War and Peace diaries, whatever I called them. This was incredible. I think I've been scared of this book for a long time, but like I just seriously had the time of my life reading this. This is Tolstoy's account of history. Like what history is. The blurb on the back says, if life could write, it would write like Tolstoy. This is my favorite Tolstoy. I have read so much of his work by now, and this is the be-all end-all. Well, Prince, so Genoa and Lucca are now just family estates of the Bonapartes. If you are scared of this, just take it very slow. I read this over 2 months, I think, and so worth it. Like such pages of really dazzling beauty. So that is War and Peace. I'm a little bit shocked that this isn't a little bit higher. Number 25 also got 17 votes. This book came in 10th in 2021. So this book in 2021, I think it is a booktube staple. This book was around before Book Talk really took over and changed the landscape of things. Waned in popularity a little bit, but that is The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. I haven't read this since years and years. Many a year, but this hurts a little bit. This hurts a bit, if I'm being honest with you, but gorgeous novel. I don't know if I would put it in my top favorites. It didn't get 5 stars for me when I read it for the first time. Chapter 1. My father was a king and the son of kings. Song of Achilles. I thought that this made it onto the previous list. It didn't, but it has now. Maybe because the TV show and the book got quite popular after the show came out again. So number 24 with 17 votes is Normal People by Sally Rooney. I still have not read this book. Emotional contemporary is not something that I love going near that much, but I will be reading this soon because it showed up here and I want to read all of the books. I would like to do a video reading all of the books from this list that I haven't yet read. So this is Normal People. I know this is about Colith and Marianne, who form a relationship despite having different backgrounds social-wise during high school, and then it follows them into adult life and the struggles that they face. First sentence of Normal People. Marianne answers the door when Connell rings the bell. Then we have a little analysis. This first sentence establishes the power dynamic of their relationship on 2 levels. Coming in at number 23, this is the last book that got 17 votes, and that is The Bell Jar. I need to reread this so badly. I do have a copy of it, but don't know where it is. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I don't know where it is in this jumble of mess. First sentence of this one is so good. It was a queer, sultry summer. The summer they electrocuted the Rosenbergs, and I didn't know what I was doing in New York. Gorgeous. Okay, maybe I'm understanding why it's here because I haven't read it in so long, but number 23 is The Bell Jar. Number 22, I have Things to Say. The book coming in at number 22 has 18 votes, and I read this last year. I gave it 5 stars, I think. I'm pretty sure I gave it 5 stars. This book gets such a bad rap, and I'm just so sad that I spent my entire life so far until last year hearing nothing but bad things about this book, that this book is a red flag if you like it. And then I was like, okay, well, I don't think I'm gonna like it. I've never wanted to read this book because of the things I had grown up hearing about it. And then I sat down and I actually read it for myself, and I was like, this book is gorgeous. This book is difficult. This book is so important. I just really don't appreciate when books get assimilated into a certain subculture or way of looking at things, and then everyone bad mouths that book into oblivion, when really if you just sit with the source material, it's this story is, first of all, it's a wonderful novel, and this story is so important and devastating, and this story is coming from the mouth of a child, and it's horrific, and that is The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger. I'm so happy it's here. Beautiful and tragic, and I feel literally nothing but, yeah, a little bit of annoyance, honestly, but mostly just sympathy, pity, and the urge to help Holden Caulfield. This is about young Holden who has flunked out of another school, and he is aimless in New York City, and he is really processing deep grief and potential trauma as well. The first and last page of this book are masterpieces, and I just love this book so much. So thank you for putting it on this list. Chapter 1. If you really want to hear about it, the first thing you'll probably want to know is where I was born, and what my lousy childhood was like, and how my parents were occupied and all before they had me, and all that David Copperfield kind of crap. But I don't feel like going into it if you want to know the truth. Number 21 is a book that I have not yet read. This book did make it on the list 3 years ago. Back then, it placed... where is it? It placed 5th? Oh, what? I think maybe because this book was really going around. Look at how long it is. Do you know what this is? With 18 votes is A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. I mean, I still haven't read it, so I should not be speaking. I can't speak to something I haven't read, but I want to read this so bad. Literally every single person has been like, you best make sure you are in a good place mentally before you read it. And you know what, folks? Haven't found that good place mentally in 3 years. This book seems to evoke, based on like, I'm not really online too much, but what I've seen of it is like people... I just know that there's like 2 camps going at it about this book, but this follows 4 college classmates broke, adrift, and buoyed only by their friendship and ambition as they move to New York in search of fame and fortune. This calls it an epic study of trauma. First sentence is, the 11th apartment had only 1 closet, but it did have a sliding glass door that opened onto a small balcony, from which he could see a man sitting across the way, outdoors in only a t-shirt and shorts even though it was October, smoking. Okay. The next book also has 18 votes. This is the last one in the 18 people category. 18 of you voted Les Mis as the best book that you had ever read as your favorite book of all time. I don't own this book, and I've never read it. Why do you like this book? Is it the 30-page description of the Paris sewer system? An hour before sunset, on the evening of a day in the beginning of October 1815, a man traveling afoot entered the little town of D. Coming in at number 19 with 19 votes is The Master and Margarita. It's embarrassing. I haven't read this. I've had this for so long. I don't think this was on the list from last time. Chapter 1. At the hour of the hot spring sunset, 2 citizens appeared at the Patriarch's Ponds. Number 18, 3 years ago, came in at 17th place, and now it comes in at 18th place. And that is The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. I'm pretty sure I said 3 years ago that I was gonna reread this, and 3 long years passed, and did I reread it? No. The Starless Sea by the same author, which came out, I think, after the video that I made, the first video that I made. The Starless Sea came in at number 31, so really interesting, but people still seem to prefer The Night Circus, which is about the circus that arrives in the middle of the night without warning, and it sets up shop, and I think it's about the battles of 2 rival magicians, right? Endless decadent description is what I remember. Circus arrives without warning. This is the last book that got 19 votes, and this is the smallest, tiniest book on the list, and that is Le Petit Prince, The Little Prince. I love this book. I love this book so much. We had to read this in high school. I'm very happy it made it onto the list. It is about this little prince who lives on a different planet, which is really no bigger than a house. It's about his travels to 7 different planets. It's just incredibly sweet, incredibly charming. Lorsque j'avais 6 ans, j'ai vu, une fois, une magnifique image dans un livre sur la forêt vierge qui s'appelait Histoire vécue. These next 2 are quite funny because places 16 and 15 are taken by the same author. So coming in at number 16, which 3 years ago came in at number 14, is Crime and Punishment. I would definitely not say that it's my favorite book of all time, so if you are one of the Crime and Punishment people, what is it to you? What does it mean to you? The first sentence is, oh shoot. On a hot evening in the summer of blah blah blah, a man walked out of the closet-like room he rented on Stoliarny Place or something. Early one evening, during an exceptional heat wave in the beginning of July, a young man walked out into the street from the closet-like room he rented on Stoliarny Place. So naturally, that means that spot number 15 is taken up by The Brothers Karamazov, which actually got 21 votes, where Crime and Punishment got 20 votes. So this suits me perfectly because The Brothers Karamazov is my preferred Dostoevsky of the two that I've read, but I love this book to bits and pieces. I read this last year, complete 5 stars, fell head over heels with it. It's a lot, took a long time to read, but God, I would list this as one of my favorite books of all time probably. It is about 3 different brothers who get mixed up in various different affairs. So I think that's all I want to say. What is the first sentence? I don't actually know. Oh, I'm so sorry about this. Alexei Fyodorovich Karamazov was the 3rd son of a landowner from our district, Fyodor Pavlovich Karamazov, well known in his own day and still remembered among us because of his dark and tragic death, which happened exactly 13 years ago, and which I shall speak of in its proper place. Oh! What was that? It's Jane Austen. Jane Austen has arrived with Pride and Prejudice, which got 23 votes, landing itself in 14th place. This also appeared, 3 years ago? You guys said that Pride and Prejudice was your 2nd favorite book of all time, like based on the number of votes that it got. It appeared in 2nd place. What happened to the Pride and Prejudice lovers? Only in 14th place, which, fair enough. I haven't read it in too long to really weigh in that well. What is the first sentence? Is the truth universally acknowledged that a single man in possession of a great fortune must be in want of a wife? Did I say that right? 24 people said that East of Eden by John Steinbeck was their favorite book of all time. I read Steinbeck. I read my first Steinbeck last year. It was not East of Eden, so clearly I still need to get my hands on this, buy it. I have no idea what it's about. If this Steinbeck is your favorite, please let me know why below. Can't believe this book didn't make it on last year, but number 12 is Anna Karenina by Tolstoy. So the general consensus among you is that you prefer Anna Karenina to War and Peace. I would place War and Peace above Anna Karenina. This is one of the softest books that I own. Like, the pages are so soft on this one. This is the Old Wordsworth edition. I've read this a couple of times now and love it. Love it. I also love the film. Oh my god. 26 people think that Anna Karenina is the masterpiece of their life. And the first sentence, what is the first sentence of this? This has just become the first sentence challenge a little bit. Each happy family is alike. Every unhappy family is unhappy in its own way, in their own way. Okay, well, the translations are going to differ, but all happy families resemble one another, but each unhappy family is unhappy in its own way. Highly recommend you give this a go. It's actually quite funny as well. Coming in at number 11. Oh, that's so interesting. Okay, so 3 years ago, this book came in 11th place. 3 years later, this book came in 11th place. What is happening? This book got 27 of your votes. It's one that I haven't yet read, but one that I am going to before the year is out, and that is Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. That's so funny that this took 11th place both times. Putting in the work. 4 sisters who each have different aspirations in their lives. Anytime that I mention Little Women in a video, you get a little feral. Christmas won't be Christmas without any presents, grumbled Joe, lying on the rug. I don't know if this is going to be a 5-star for me. I don't know if this is going to be a new favorite book of all time, but if you also want to test out that hypothesis, Carolyn and I, who hosts Game of Tomes book club with me, will be reading Little Women throughout November and December of this year. If you want to join us, links are in the description box. Very excited to finally tick off one of your favorite books of all time. We've now reached the top 10. Very excited. The 10th book, coming in at 29 votes, is the last book on this list that I have not yet read. Number 10 is The Book Thief by Marcus Zusak. Why haven't I read this? I don't know. This book came in 8th place 3 years ago, and now it is in 10th place. I truly still don't really know what this is about. I know it's set during World War II, and I think it is about the Nazi book burnings. Coming in at number 9, also with 29 votes, so I guess these are pretty interchangeable, is The Secret History by Donna Tartt. I do have this. I have read it. Do you think I'm gonna pull it out of there? I'm not. This would not be on the list for me, personally. I think The Secret History, out of all the books on this list, of the ones that I have read, this is one that I would not put on this list. I gave this, I think, 3 stars when I read it. Like, I enjoyed it, and I will read it again because it's been years since I read it, but not a new favorite by any means. If you put this here, please convince me. Maybe it's because I was a lit classical studies student myself, so it just didn't really... Okay, coming in at number 8, though, is a book that I am so pleased is here. I was not expecting this book to be I was expecting it to be on the list, but not this high up, because number 8 is Anne of Green Gables with 34 votes by Lucy Maud Montgomery. I love this book to bits. This is a 5-star book for me. This would be on my list of my favorite books of all time. I love this book so much. Please read it if you haven't read it. I say this every time, but seriously, drop what you're doing and read Anne of Green Gables. I waited years to read this, and I shouldn't have. The first sentence. Mrs. Rachel Lynde lived just where the Avonlea main road dipped down into a little hollow, fringed with alders and ladies' eardrops and traversed by a brook that had its source away back in the woods of the old Cuthbert place. It was reputed to be an intricate, headlong brook in its earlier course through those woods, with dark secrets of pool and cascade. But by the time it reached Lynde's Hollow, it was a quiet, well-conducted little stream, for not even a brook could run past Mrs. Rachel Lynde's door without due regard for decency and decorum. It probably was conscious that Mrs. Rachel was sitting at her window, keeping a sharp eye on everything that passed, from brooks and children up, and that if she noticed anything odd or out of place, she would never rest until she had ferreted out the whys and wherefores thereof. I love a first sentence that takes up the whole first page. Heart and soul. Heart and soul, I'm so glad to see this here. Thank you guys so much for voting for this. The first sentence of The Secret History. The snow in the mountains was melting, and Bunny had been dead for several weeks before we came to understand the gravity of our situation. Yeah, there's murder in there. Coming in at number 7 is a book that got a ton of votes 3 years ago. This book came in 4th place 3 years ago, and now it is in 7th, and that is Wuthering Heights, with 36 of your votes. This, to me, is like right on the cusp of a 5-star. I keep like tipping back and forth between this is really truly a favorite book of mine or not. I got to reread this, was it last year I reread this? And I enjoyed it. Like, I love it. I love it to bits and pieces. I love all of the horrible, awful people in here. It was something I could relate to so much more now because the last time I read it previously was in high school, so this just felt so much more real and devastating. I love Emily Bronte's writing. I feel like you either love or hate this book. Chapter 1, 1801. I have just returned from a visit to my landlord, the solitary neighbor that I shall be troubled with. There will be troubling. This is the story of Catherine and Heathcliff, and trust me, it's one of the happiest books you'll ever read. Can I just say, I don't know how many of the top 6 books are due to the influence of this channel or book clubs that I am part of, but I just want to say, in my head, I'm going to take some credit. In my head, I'm going to take a little bit of credit because this book is in 6th place with 37 of your votes, but 3 years ago, it didn't even touch the top 20 at all, which was surprising to me then. Very happy that it's this high up, was not expecting this. Coming in number 6 is The Lord of the Rings by Tolkien. I just reread this last month. 5 stars. I love this. This is everything. Currently, The Fellowship is my favorite, but I haven't yet read Return of the King, which I'm starting tomorrow. This is just so fantastic, so fantastic. If you have not yet read Lord of the Rings, I would just really advise you to. This gave me so much peace, so much comfort, so much happiness. It's so good. When Mr. Bilbo Baggins of Bag End announced that he would shortly be celebrating his 111st birthday with a party of special magnificence, there was much talk and excitement in Hobbiton. Can I just say that for pick number 5, top 5 now, with 38 votes, I'm flabbergasted. I'm so flabbergasted, so happy. I'm also laughing my ass off because I think I know exactly why this book is here. So in January and February, Carolyn and I kicked off Game of Tomes, where we read exclusively big ass books, and this was the first book we read for the book club, and frothing at the mouth. Okay, everyone was frothing at the mouth. We were getting frothed. This book, so good. 5 stars. One of my favorite books of the year. Number 5 is The Count of Monte Cristo by Dumas. I don't think this book got even like 10 votes 3 years ago. Now in 2024, 38 of you are like, I will vouch for Edmond Dantes. Can I just say the journey that I got to go on this year and that so many of you did as well? I'm so happy this is here. I am so happy that this is here. This is never a book that I ever had any compulsion to read, that I was ever drawn to, that I ever wanted to read. I assumed that because it's like 1,300 pages long, it would be boring, dull, dry, especially given the time period in which it was written. No. Wrong, and wrong again. I love when books do this. I love when I'm like, ugh, I have to read Catcher in the Rye. Ugh, I have to read The Count of Monte Cristo. Like, no. Changes very quickly to like, I am so privileged and so blessed that I can read The Count of Monte Cristo. This was phenomenal. This is about a young sailor, Edmond Dantes, who shortly after the Napoleonic Wars gets thrown into prison for a crime that he did not commit. It is the revenge story. This is hotter gossip than... This is so entertaining. This is like... It's just everything. It's truly just everything. If you are worried that like 1,300 pages is a bit daunting, or if you're worried that it's going to be a bit slow, it is not. It is not. Dumas knows how to pace. He knows how to keep you hooked. He knows how to write a story. Like, I just love the story of it. Like, it's so easily digestible, and I'm going to stop myself before I keep ranting about The Count of Monte Cristo, but I just think it's hilarious. It's hilarious that this book is in 5th place. It's hilarious that when I filmed my book crushes video, which I also polled you guys on of who is your #1 book crush in literature, it's hilarious that Edmond Dantes ranked so high on that. Like, I think the world is divided into people who have read The Count of Monte Cristo and who know just how great it is, and those that haven't yet read it and they're like, okay, maybe they're thinking it's going to be an average book. No, clearly once you've read The Count of Monte Cristo, there's no going back. Okay, we are down to the top 4. The top 4 of your favorite books of all time. Coming in 4th place is Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte with 41 votes. I didn't know this. I didn't know this about you guys. 3 years ago, Jane Eyre came in 9th place, and now it's in 4th place. What happened? If you're one of the 41 of the 2000 who voted for Jane Eyre, please comment, because Jane Eyre is not a book that I would place in my favorite books of all time, albeit I haven't read it in a while. If you haven't read Jane Eyre, this is about Jane, has a really rough childhood, and who eventually gets to go and work as governess for Mr. Rochester, who is this very rich, powerful, cranky, gross man. I think I even prefer Wide Sargasso Sea by Jean Rhys to Jane Eyre, which Wide Sargasso Sea is kind of the backstory of Jane Eyre a little bit that Jean Rhys decided to imagine. I also don't agree with this one. Convince me I'm wrong. Like, tell me I'm wrong. There was no possibility of taking a walk that day. Top 3 are so surprising. The battle for 2nd place was crazy. These two were tied for so long, and then finally when I hit around 2,000 votes, it like tallied off to have a 2nd and 3rd place that were distinct from one another. Coming in at number 3, this was the book that 3 years ago you guys unanimously decided and voted as your favorite book of all time. Like, this was the #1 spot. 3 years later, it has been demoted to 3rd place with 51 votes, and that is the picture of Dorian Gray. I was honestly expecting to get pretty much the same results this time around. Maybe it's been 3 years and you've forgotten how amazing Dorian is. I don't know. But this still came in with 51 votes. One of the most beautiful things I've ever read in my entire life. Chapter 1. The studio was filled with the rich odor of roses, and when the light summer wind stirred amidst the trees of the garden, there came through the open door the heavy scent of the lilac, or the more delicate perfume of the pink flowering thorn. This would make it to my list 100%, so Dorian, 3rd place. Coming in 2nd place, this is so interesting. I'm just so happy about this, was not expecting this. 3 years ago, this book came in 7th place. I talk about this book a lot. I love this book a lot. And 52 of you, I can't believe there's only 1 vote discrepancy between Dorian and 2nd place, because coming in 2nd place is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley with 52 votes. For so long, I think Frankenstein, I guess it's not, I thought it was an underrated classic. Not in your books, not in mine either. I love this so much. I've read this 3 times now. Each time it just gets better and better and better. Like, I'm so happy. If you voted for Frankenstein, please come say hi. Chapter 1, Letter 1. You will rejoice to hear that no disaster has accompanied the commencement of an enterprise which you have regarded with such evil forebodings. I could talk about Frankenstein for the rest of my life. You know what? Maybe I will. You know what? You probably have to hold me to that, okay? When I'm 90, don't let me even shut up about this. Sorry, I just need to take a moment to breathe, because the #1 spot, that you guys have voted as the best book that you have ever read in your life, you're gonna think I rigged the list. Like, you're gonna think I rigged the votes. Really weirdly, it just so happens that the book that you voted as the best book that you have ever read is also the best book that I've ever read, and is also my favorite book of all time. That's weird, but I swear to God, I didn't do anything. I just counted the votes, okay? Your favorite book coming in with 70 votes, kind of a landslide, really. It's 100 Years of Solitude. Oh, I could die happy. 3 years ago, Okay, the stocks for 100 Years of Solitude only landed it in 12th place on that list. 3 years later, after me hawking its wares for 3 years, it's in first place. I'm like out of breath talking about this book already, but to be completely honest with you, I have never felt a glow like this. Never before. And never since. Reading 100 Years of Solitude, at least for me and for 70 other of you, it has destroyed, ruined, ripped up, made obsolete reading in general. I know that's a huge, grandiose statement, but really, truly, reading 100 Years of Solitude, experiencing this book has made everything else I read pale to death in comparison. That like it's over. You know when you experience true love too young and it ruins the rest of your life for you? 100 Years of Solitude. It's ruined everything else. Read this for the first time in 2020 or 2021, and I have never found anything before like this in my life. I have read 1,040 something books so far in my life. Nothing comes close, nothing touches it, nothing even gets a little bit on its level that it's just devastating. Most of the time I have to pretend that this book doesn't even exist so that I can go on reading other things and pretending that other books are actually good. I know that sounds so dramatic. I can't even express to you how much I love something like this, so maybe the other people who voted for this, which were so many of you, please just try, because I think if you read this, so many people who voted, so many people who put their answer in the poll, you guys were like 100 Years of Solitude. I have never been able to experience anything like this. I've never found anything like this before. Nothing comes close to this. Nothing in my reading has ever come close to touching what I feel for 100 Years of Solitude, how smart it is, how clever it is, how universal and poetic and beautiful it is. Just like and this isn't even reading it in the original language. This is a translation. I read this twice. I think if I read it a third time it would kill me. So many of you sent me the trailer or the teaser for Netflix's show. I think it's a show, right? Of 100 Years of Solitude. I haven't opened it because I can't open it. You know when you like something too much and you can't even look them in the eyes? If you don't know what this is about, 100 Years of Solitude tells the story of the rise and fall, birth and death of the mythical town of Macondo through the history of the Buendia family. Inventive, amusing, magnetic, sad, and alive with unforgettable men and women, brimming with truth, compassion, and a lyrical magic that strikes the soul, this novel is a masterpiece in the art of fiction. The first sentence? I'm so glad you asked. Many years later, as he faced the firing squad, Colonel Aureliano Buendia was to remember that distant afternoon when his father took him to discover ice. There's an updated video for you. I've been wanting to make an update on this for a long time, and I'll see you in another 3 years from now, okay? Mark it in your calendar. If your favorite book of all time was not on this list, please pop it below. Let me know what other list videos you would like. Let me know what other questions you would like me to ask you. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys so much for participating, and thank you for loving books endlessly. Like, it brings me no amount of joy. So until the next one, ciao.